My name is Rosie. I am 26 years old.
My name is Rahul Mehta, and I'm 35 years old.
I'm Caroline. I'm 35 years old.
I was first diagnosed with anorexia when I was 7 years old. I was really confused. I had never heard of eating disorders before. I had never heard of anorexia before. I didn't understand why my doctor and my parents were saying that what I was doing was like wrong or not okay. I didn't see it as being a problem. I just saw it as being me.
The eating disorders I've been identified as having currently is binge eating disorder and bulimia. I have prior been diagnosed with anorexia as well.
My eating disorder developed when I was 12. I started restricting and was diagnosed with just restricting type anorexia when I was 14. Throughout high school, it evolved and changed. I started purging, had some problems with binging, but it was still mostly restricting.
I would go to the gym and I'd hop on a treadmill and I would run for usually about 2 hours, and then I would go to another gym and do another couple hours of cardio and go to another gym and do a few more hours working out. At my worst, I belonged to 5 different gyms at one time because I felt like I couldn't spend more than 2 hours at a time at the same gym without raising red flags, but often was spending 8 to 10 hours at the gym every night.
As a child, it was more of just shoving food in my face as much as possible, sneaking food, hoarding food, and any food. It really didn't matter. As I grew up, probably like, high school-ish, the typical day included, obviously, getting up, not having any breakfast or anything, but throughout the day I was just thinking about food constantly. And it was more of just shoving, but more of like the heavier proteins in my face. And then anorexia hit because I was just tired of life and what life was like. I would say no to all foods, and I would probably have a bowl of cornflakes every 3 days.
I have osteoporosis. I have GERD, like the reflux. I still have problems with my blood sugar. I'm pretty sensitive to like when I need to eat, even though like I've been recovered for 4 years. I had chronic problems with all of my electrolytes being like critically low. I had different heart arrhythmias and different heart problems that I had to be hospitalized for, like bradycardia. I went into kidney failure a few times, and there were times when like the doctors were like, well, we don't know if you're gonna live, like you might have to go on dialysis, you might like need a kidney transplant. I experienced a stress fracture in my left femoral neck, which is essentially your hip. I've had different feeding tubes at different times. Whenever I would get bad news like that, especially regarding like the kidney stuff, it did deter me like for a while. I tried really hard. Those were times when I was, in the hospital. Of course, they would tell me that. And I remember after that, I think I went to Castlewood for the first time.
I went to Castlewood Treatment Center. The first time I was there, it was kind of eye-opening in the sense that, one, I was the only guy. So I was in a room full of 17-ish women or so, and so it was kind of awkward. And a lot of me just wanted to just not talk, just shut up. Like I didn't want to embarrass myself. And plus, like the guy mentality would come out, like I wanted to be masculine. The very first day of treatment, Castlewood supplied the food, and I just remember all of them, all the clients, women, they would put the food on the plate, show a staff member, and the staff member would be like, you need more, you need less. I'm like, what? Like, you guys are adults. Like, what's going on? But I had realized that it was very much necessary because I think after so many years of eating disorder, at least personally, I didn't know how to eat. The misconceptions of eating disorders, I think, is pretty vast.
I've so often been told to just have a cheeseburger or just eat. And if recovering from an eating disorder was as simple as just eating, I would have done it a long time ago.
So many providers, like in my professional experience, even now, who don't understand eating disorders at all. Like they think it's all about the weight. They think you have to look like you weigh like 60 pounds, or you don't have an eating disorder. Or if they literally see someone eating a meal, they'll decide that person doesn't have an eating disorder because they just eat in general.
Some other misconceptions about eating disorders is that it only occurs during heightened emotional times. Is very much like rooted into everyday life. It was like a second nature. It was like their life. It was even during the best of days, during the eating disorder, like you would still be having behaviors without realizing it, because it was just a part of your life. So it wasn't just like heightened emotions, like what you would see on TV, someone gets dumped and they eat a gallon of ice cream. It's definitely a lot more than that. It's not just a woman's thing. Guys also suffer from eating disorders, and the issue that I've seen personally is that as growing up, in most cases, at least in our society, boys are wired to kind of keep emotions tucked in. And the only acceptable emotion to show is anger. And yet, ironically, as they grow older, they are needing to quote unquote simmer down. They're needing to talk about their feelings, but you don't know how.
It's not something I can just choose to snap out of or choose to be anorexic one day and normal the next. I can't tell you how many people have said oh, I wish I had your problem. Oh, I tried to be anorexic once, but obviously I failed. Wow, you've got such great self-control. Because in reality, I was completely out of control. It wasn't some phase or some fad. For me, it's been the last 19 years of my life. It gets a grip on you, and you are locked in. And escaping that eating disorder is one of the hardest things you could ever be asked to do.
Not acting on behaviors really helps me be happy, or at least live right now, instead of always worried or striving for something else in the future. Life just says tomorrow will happen tomorrow. But right now I made this awesome lunch, and let's just enjoy that right now, and I'll just be kind of at peace. Or this book that I'm reading is amazing, and I'm really excited to be reading this chapter.
I have a life. I've worked really hard to rebuild my life, rebuild my friendships. I go out with friends, I have fun. I don't limit anything that I do because I don't like the way that I look, or I'm worried about food at an event. I have an incredible amount of headspace for other things. It's just not a focus in my life anymore, which is incredible. I always thought that I was going to die from this. I was never able to picture anything else. And to be where I am now, I finished my master's degree and I'm actually starting a career, it's just so different. It's almost I'm not the same person.
Now that I'm in recovery and I'm nourishing my body, I feel that pain. When I think about my past, I feel the pain associated with it. When life is stressful or life is hard, or things happen that are either upsetting or disappointing, I feel that, and that's difficult, and that's something I didn't have to deal with in the past because I was so numbed out to everything from being so malnourished. But ultimately, the things that I have gained are so worth any pain that I feel now, because there might be days where I feel stress and anger and sadness and disappointment, but I also feel joy and I also feel excitement and I also feel happy and contentment, and I didn't feel any of those before either.